fell, but woke up in another time.
I'm in a coma, or in hell, or somewhere in between.
Awaken, if you can.
You're not a cop. You're just lost.
Detective Chief Inspector Sam Tyler stood outside the suspect's house, a detached two-story on the edge of Salford. Rain misted the front yard, dulling the orange flicker of streetlights. The suspect, Colin Reese, hadn't shown up to his scheduled session with his psychiatrist. It was a small detail, but enough to send Sam knocking. The moment the front door creaked open, Colin bolted. Sam didn't hesitate. He gave chase. Down the drive, through back alleys, over a chain-link fence. Colin was fast, but Sam was fueled by frustration, by instinct, by the image of the murdered woman lying cold in that flat on Satch Road. He tackled Colin just behind a storage lot and slapped the cuffs on. Back at the station, Sam laid out the evidence. A diary found in Colin's flat, pages scribbled with disturbing confessions. One entry matched the murder almost exactly. Date, location, method. For Sam, it was too specific to be coincidence. He leaned over the table in the interview room, pointing out the details to Colin, pressing him for a reaction. But Colin didn't give one. He stared through him like he wasn't even there. Dr. Malik, Colin's psychiatrist, arrived halfway through the interrogation. Calm, composed, she quietly reminded Sam that Colin was schizophrenic. He writes things like this all the time, she said. Fantasies, delusions. He isn't living in the same reality as us. But Sam wasn't ready to let it go. Fantasies don't line up this perfectly with real events, he argued. He kept digging, cross-referencing other cases, checking timelines, until Dr. Malik shut him down completely. On the night of the kidnapping, Colin had been with her. She'd kept detailed logs, time-stamped notes, even CCTV from her building. It was airtight. With no choice, Sam released him. That night, tension hung thick in the squad room. Maya, Sam's girlfriend and fellow detective, didn't like the outcome. "We shouldn't let him walk away," she said. "There's something else there. I feel it." "Feeling isn't evidence," Sam replied, shutting a file with a thud. He was exhausted. The press were breathing down his neck. The brass wanted results, not guesses. "He's off," Maya insisted. "The way he looked at you, like he knew something." Sam hesitated, then dropped the bomb. "I'm taking you off the case." Maya stared at him like he'd slapped her. "You're what?" "I think our personal stuff is bleeding into this," he said. "We're not being objective. I'm not trying to punish you, Maya. I just..." "Forget it," she said, grabbing her coat and walking out. Later that evening, Sam was back at his desk, combing through case notes when his phone rang. It was Maya. Her voice was low, tense. "I followed him. Colin. I had to. He met with someone. It looked like a handoff. Something's not right." Sam sat up, adrenaline kicking in. "Where are you? I'm sending backup." But then, screaming. A crash, shuffling, then nothing. "Maya!" Sam shouted into the phone. "Maya!" He was already out the door, racing to her last known location. When he got there, sirens were closing in, but it was too late. All he found was her jacket, soaked in blood, discarded by a skip. No sign of her, no witnesses. "Preserve the scene," he barked at the first officers on site. "Get forensics down here now." But even as they cordoned it off, Sam knew this was different. It wasn't just another case anymore. He got back in his car, hands trembling. His mind spun through possibilities. She could be dead, or she could be alive and waiting for him to find her. He didn't even realize he was crying until his vision blurred. A horn blared and he jerked the wheel just in time to avoid a crash. Shaking, he pulled over and stumbled out, gasping for air. He stood by the road, trying to calm himself, but nothing came. No clarity, no plan. Just the echo of Maya's scream and the sick feeling in his stomach. Then the lights came. A car tore around the corner at impossible speed. Sam barely turned in time to see it. Metal hit flesh. His body lifted off the ground, then everything went black. Far away, voices, a steady beep, doctors barking instructions, the sound of a defibrillator charging. Then silence. And when Sam opened his eyes, the world he knew was gone. Sam Tyler opened his eyes to gray light and rusted metal. Rain had stopped, but the ground beneath him was damp, gritty. He was lying outside, just off the road, next to what looked like an abandoned factory. His head pounded, but it wasn't just pain. It was confusion. He pushed himself up slowly, breathing hard, glancing around. The street was unfamiliar. The buildings looked old, not run down, just from another time. Everything had a faded, washed-out look, like a postcard from decades ago. He checked his clothes, not his suit, no tie, no phone, no radio. He patted his jacket and found a wallet. Inside, a warrant card. His name was there, but the badge read, Detective Inspector. Not Chief Inspector, not anymore. A car sat a few feet away, brown, clunky, like something from a vintage film. Sam staggered toward it, thinking it must have been the one that hit him. But there was no one inside, no damage. Just an old idle engine ticking softly. Footsteps crunched behind him. A voice, thick with a Manchester accent, called out, "Oi, Tyler, you having a lie down or what?" Sam turned around. The man approaching wore a police uniform, but not like any modern one. It was all navy blue, high collar, brass buttons. The officer looked at him like nothing was wrong, like this was normal. "That's your car," the officer said, nodding toward the brown Cortina. "Says right there on the papers." D.I. Sam Tyler. Sam stared at him, jaw tight. "I'm a chief inspector. Where's my phone?" The officer blinked. "Your what?" "My mobile," Sam said again, louder. "I need to call someone." But the word didn't register. The officer just shook his head, muttered something about another nutter, and walked off. Sam wandered the city in a daze. Buildings he didn't recognize. Cars he'd only seen in museums. Shops advertising cigarettes and milk in old-timey fonts. Nobody had a phone. Nobody looked at him strangely, as if he belonged here. But he didn't. Every face, every voice, every smell told him that something was wrong. Then he caught his reflection in a shop window. The man staring back at him wore an old-fashioned shirt with giant collars, brown slacks, and leather shoes. He looked like someone out of a 1970s cop show. It wasn't just the world around him. It was him. The longer he looked, the less sure he felt about what was real. He found his way to the police station, or at least the place that was supposed to be the Greater Manchester Police Headquarters. But this version looked like a cramped set from a low-budget period drama. Paper files everywhere, typewriters clicking, people smoking indoors. Sam pushed through the chaos and made straight for the chief inspector's office. His office. Or it used to be. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted, slamming the door open. Everyone turned to stare. Then came the response. A heavy-set man in a tan coat with wild sideburns stepped into the room, eyes cold and unimpressed. "You, Tyler?" Sam nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'm DCI Gene Hunt," the man said. "And unless you've lost your bloody mind, this is my office. You're just passing through." Before Sam could respond, Gene grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the filing cabinet. "Now either you calm down or I'll put you through that wall." Sam blinked, stunned. "I need to make a call. There's been a mistake." "Join the club," Gene growled and shoved him away. In the scuffle, Sam caught sight of the date on the newspaper sitting on Hunt's desk. July 1973. He stared at it, frozen. 1973. It couldn't be. He left the office and found a phone, the kind with a rotary dial. He spun the numbers to call his mobile, but instead got a bored-sounding operator who asked who he was trying to reach. "Maya," he said. "Detective Maya Roy. Mobile number..." But the operator cut him off, not understanding a word. Suddenly, from nowhere, Sam heard a loud, high-pitched whine, the sound of a defibrillator charging. Then a voice, distant, urgent. "Sam Tyler, stay with us. He's moving." Sam spun around. The noise was gone. Nobody else seemed to have noticed. They were still pushing papers, still talking about suspects and booze and football. Later that day, Gene left to give a press statement about a new murder. He threw the case file at Sam and said, "Your lead until I get back. Don't cock it up." Sam opened the file and felt his stomach drop. A young woman, found dead on Satch Road. Same location, same injuries, same signs of kidnapping. It was his case, the one from 2006. He stared at the file, stunned. This couldn't be a coincidence. It was too exact. Sam tried to shake himself awake. He slapped his own face. He ran his hands through his hair, paced the office, muttered, "This isn't real. This isn't real." He looked around, waiting for the illusion to break, but it didn't. "Something's wrong with you," said one of the other detectives, watching him nervously. They called in the station nurse, a woman named Annie. She checked him over, kind but puzzled. "No signs of a concussion. Your vitals are fine. Maybe you should just go home." Rest. Sam didn't know where home was supposed to be, but he accepted her offer for a ride. As she drove, he mumbled, "I'm in a coma, aren't I? I'm lying in a hospital bed in 2006, and none of this is real." Annie didn't laugh. She looked over, serious. "Or maybe you're having a breakdown." When they arrived at the flat listed under his name, Sam was still talking. "Everything's too specific, too well constructed. My mind made this up. You're not real." Annie gave him a strange look. "If I'm not real," she said, "why do I have a heartbeat?" Sam reached out and pressed his hand against her chest. She shoved it away, insulted. "Sorry," he muttered. "I just needed to know." Later that night, Sam sat alone in front of the TV, letting the static and grainy voices blur together. A variety show flickered across the screen. Then something changed. The host on the TV paused mid-joke. His expression shifted. He looked straight into the camera. "Sam," he said, "he's not in a coma. Not fully. His responses are inconsistent. Low activity in the frontal lobe, but there are signs of awareness." Sam bolted upright. "What? What did you say?" The man on the screen continued, now in a calm, clinical voice. "We believe he can hear us. He murmurs sometimes, moves slightly." Sam leaned forward, gripping the edge of the couch. "Let me out. Let me wake up." But the man on the screen just blinked and then smiled like nothing had happened. "Up next, a look at the week's best footballers." Back to normal. Sam sat in silence. The TV droned on. He was trapped in a world that wasn't his, but it was starting to feel real anyway. Sam woke up to the sound of the street outside, distant engines, people shouting, the scrape of shoe leather on pavement. He wasn't used to how loud this world was. No mobile ringtones, no sirens blaring every 5 minutes. But still, somehow, it never shut up. He got dressed in the clothes he'd found folded on a chair. Wide lapels, thick fabric, awful colors. Every time he looked in the mirror, it unsettled him. He looked like himself, but wrong. A version of him that belonged to someone else's memory. Back at the station, Jean was reading the latest newspaper. Another murder. Same signature, same street, same disregard from the department. No forensic photos, no proper evidence handling, and worst of all, no real effort. Sam watched in disbelief as officers made jokes about the victim's skirt length, tossed aside statements from friendly faces, and chalked things up to just bad luck. "You're all sleepwalking through this," Sam snapped. Jean raised an eyebrow. "Then wake us up, spaceman. Show us how it's done in your imaginary future." Sam bit his tongue. He couldn't keep telling them this wasn't real. They already thought he was unstable. But he wasn't going to play their game either. Not now. He gathered the team in the briefing room, turned the chalkboard into a makeshift timeline, and started walking them through what he called forensic psychology. Most of them rolled their eyes. Chris laughed when Sam suggested profiling. Ray muttered about poofs and shrinks. But Sam kept going. He had Annie help him build a profile of the killer. Male, early 30s, mentally disturbed, fixated on women who intimidated him. Jean gave him 3 days to prove it. For a while, it led nowhere. The department kept working its way, smashing in doors, roughing up the usual suspects, pushing paperwork under carpets. Sam grew more frustrated with every dead end, convinced the illusion was fighting back. He sat in the canteen with Annie late one night, stirring his tea. "None of this matters," he said. "It's just my brain spinning its wheels." She looked at him carefully. "If it doesn't matter, why are you still trying so hard?" "Because if I solve it, maybe I wake up." He started talking about walking. Just walking until he found the edge of this fake world. Eventually, the illusion has to run out, right? My mind can't just keep building forever. Before he could put that theory to the test, a break came. A witness statement, buried under a pile of neglected paperwork. A neighbor had seen someone lurking near the murder scene. Sam followed it up, and it led him to an address that made his chest tighten. Edward Kramer. Quiet man. Lived alone. On the same street where the latest victim was found. When Sam and Jean went to Kramer's house, Sam knew almost immediately. This was it. The man's behavior was twitchy. His answers rehearsed. His house too clean in all the wrong ways. They moved fast, found the next victim tied up in the basement. Alive, but terrified. As Kramer was being cuffed and taken out, Sam noticed something through the front window. A kid playing in the yard next door, watching everything with wide eyes. Sam's breath caught in his throat. It was Colin Reese, younger, thinner, maybe 10 years old. Back in the station, Sam didn't say much, but his mind raced. Maya had been right. Colin did know Kramer. They were neighbors. That link, the one they never found in 2006, had been in front of them all along. Colin's obsession wasn't just illness, it was memory. The pieces clicked into place, and with them, a cold, grim realization. If Kramer went free, he'd do it all again, including, eventually, the kidnapping of Maya. Sam reviewed the evidence. Found a letter from a psychiatrist declaring Kramer mentally unfit. If that document reached court, Kramer would be hospitalized for a year or two, then released. History would repeat itself. He showed the note to Jean. Jean didn't even blink. We don't show that, not unless you want him out and killing again before we're back from lunch. Sam stood there for a long time, torn. Every fiber of his 2006 trained mind told him this was wrong. But if he let the past play out the same way, Maya would vanish all over again. He folded the note and tucked it into his coat. Didn't say another word. That evening he sat alone in a smoky bar, staring into a pint he hadn't touched. Then a man slid into the booth across from him. "Sam," the man said. "I'm Keith. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm speaking to your subconscious." Sam looked up slowly. "Excuse me." "You're stuck," the man continued. "But you can break out. All you need is to take a definitive step." Sam narrowed his eyes. "Is Maya alive?" "She is. She's beside you right now. You just have to wake up." The man stood and walked out without another word. Sam sat still for a moment, then left the bar and walked across the city until he stood on the roof of a tall, half-built office block. Wind ripped at his coat. Cars moved like ants below. He stepped to the edge. Behind him, footsteps. Annie. "Don't," she said. "You don't understand," Sam said. "That man, Keith, he told me this was all in my head." Annie frowned. "That's my ex, from university. He's playing a prank, Sam. He heard about your theories. He's trying to mess with you." Down on the ground, Keith appeared, hands in the air. "It was a joke, mate. Just a bit of fun." Sam's hands trembled. "Number, this is my mind trying to keep me here. You're all figments." Annie stepped closer, took his hand. "Feel that?" she asked. He did. Her skin was warm, a bit rough, damp. "Why are your hands wet?" he asked. "I slipped," she said. My hand landed in a fire bucket outside. Someone forgot to cover it. Sam stared at her. That kind of detail, so pointless, so mundane. Why would he imagine that? He stepped back from the edge. The next moment, he was lying in bed. In the flat. Sunlight poured through the window. He didn't know if he'd dreamt it all or just decided not to jump. But he felt something shift inside. He couldn't say for certain if this was the past or a hallucination, but whatever it was, it had purpose. And until he understood what that was, he wasn't going anywhere. The city never shut up. Cars backfired like gunshots. Music leaked from open windows. Typewriters clacked like impatient fingers. Sam had stopped trying to make it quiet. He stopped trying to make it modern. This was 1973, whether it was real or not. And he was still here. He sat in his office. Well, Jean's office, technically, surrounded by stacks of badly handled evidence and cigarette smoke. The ashtray beside him was full. Not from him. He didn't smoke. But someone always did in this place. He'd stopped trying to wake up, stopped slapping his face or yelling at televisions. The doctors in the static had gone silent. The voices behind radios, monitors, windows, gone. Whatever was happening in the real world, if there was a real world, had quieted. He didn't know if that meant he was improving or fading. Jean barged in, coat swinging like a cape. "We've got a robbery," he said. "Post office. 2 injured. One of 'em's June." Sam stood too fast. "June from the front desk?" "Yeah, she took a bullet meant for me." In the hospital, June was still unconscious, tubes in her nose, bruises on her face. Jean sat beside her, his jaw clenched, fists tighter than Sam had ever seen. "This is on you," Jean muttered. "If you'd have banged up Trent when we had the chance, this wouldn't have happened." "I couldn't hold him," Sam said. "There was no evidence." "She's bleeding because of your bloody conscience." Sam didn't argue. Maybe Jean was right. Maybe his rules didn't belong here. But they were the only things keeping him sane. Back at the station, Jean threw a case file across the room. It hit the wall and slid to the floor. "You want to play big-time cop? Then do something. Otherwise, get out of my sight." Sam didn't leave. He stayed. Not for Jean, or the job, or even the case. He stayed for the only thing that made sense anymore, making something right. The next day, a new lead landed in his lap like an apology from the universe. A garbage collector named Leonard had seen the robbery, seen Trent with his mask off. Sam found him out by the bins behind a chip shop, arms deep in grease and wrappers. "I didn't see anything," Leonard said. "You did," Sam replied. "And you can help." Leonard hesitated. "He'll kill me." "No, he won't," Sam promised. "We'll protect you." That night, Sam discovered just how flimsy that promise really was. The station didn't have witness protection. Not really. No secure locations, no surveillance. Just a couple of tired officers half assigned to keep an eye. So Leonard ran. Sam chased. He caught up to him by the canal just as Leonard was trying to toss his ID in. "I can't do this," Leonard said. "You already did," Sam said, panting. "You saw him. You know. You can make this stop. Can you guarantee I'll be safe?" Sam hesitated. then lied. Yes. They set up a lineup. Sam left Annie to keep Leonard calm and posted 2 officers outside his flat. But late that night, Annie called, panic in her voice. "They're here. Trent's men, the officers, they're gone." Sam didn't hesitate. He got in his car and didn't stop for red lights. He found Annie and Leonard crouched behind a couch. The front window was smashed. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Trent was here. "Stay down," Sam whispered, pulling Annie behind him. A figure appeared in the doorway, Trent holding a pistol like he'd used it before. "You think this makes you brave," Sam said. "Terrorizing a witness, shooting a woman?" Trent smirked. "I think it makes me free." Then came another voice. "Don't move." Gene Hunt, shotgun raised. Trent froze. They arrested him, and for once, the cuffs clicked without drama. Later, at the station, Leonard identified Trent. The robbery case was closed, and Sam, he let himself feel something he hadn't felt in weeks. Relief. He visited June again. This time she was awake. Barely, but her eyes met his. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded once, weak. As he turned to leave, the lights in the room flickered and then died. A coldness crept in, unnatural and silent. The door slammed shut behind him. The machines around June went flat. He heard shouting, somewhere far off. A doctor's voice, urgent. His life support. What the hell happened? Plug it back in now. The flat line droned in his ears. The dark felt absolute. He tried to scream, but no sound came. Then, beeping, slow, steady. The lights returned. He looked at June, still breathing. Sam stepped into the corridor, shaken. Not because he almost died, but because it felt like someone else had. Later, he sat in his flat, staring out the window. The city was still too loud, still stuck in 1973, still broken, but it was his now, whether it was real or not. Annie joined him, sitting on the floor with a bottle of something brown and strong. "You all right?" she asked. "No," Sam said, "but I'm here." She didn't ask what that meant. Outside, laughter echoed in the street. A radio played something scratchy and upbeat. Somewhere, a dog barked. Sam Tyler leaned back in his chair, eyes half closed. He didn't know what was real anymore. But tomorrow, there'd be another case, and he'd do it his way.